share some charts and just give my breakdown. I am a pop astrology girly. It is superficial and dumb and silly, but I'm doing it. So let's start. Let's just get into it. So Kylie Jenner and Timothée Chalamet made a hard launch on their alleged relationship. And I say alleged because nobody's actually confirmed. We've never heard either one of them say, yes, this is my boyfriend or girlfriend, but that's the rumor. And I think a lot of the rumors were satisfied when they made this display at the Beyonce concert where they were making out and cuddling right in front of, conveniently, a camera that they were making a lot of eye contact with. So take that however you want to. But I just kind of wanted to look at the charts because I was curious, like, is this the real deal? What's going on here? They've got the internet divided. So I just kind of wanted to see what the sky might say. So to kind of start, I have Kylie's chart pulled up. She is a Capricorn rising, a Leo sun, and a Scorpio moon. An interesting thing about the Kardashian Jenner clan is that they have very strong fixed and cardinal placements throughout their family. So, Kylie definitely continues that pattern. Capricorn, her rising sign, is a cardinal sign. Leo and Scorpio, which are the signs of her sun and moon, are both fixed signs. So she's got that signature in her chart as well. Capricorn risings tend to be very ambitious. I always think about like Capricorn energy as like the business bitch energy. They're focused, they're driven, they have a goal, they have something that they want to achieve in this lifetime. She definitely has had a controversial presence in the business world with her lip kits and things like that. So I guess I'm not surprised to see that she has a Capricorn rising. And then she also has this Neptune at 28 degrees in Capricorn. And Neptune is often related to things like illusion, or just sort of like some sort of unclarity or uncertainty. She definitely has a mystification or like an illusory appearance about herself. I also wonder if this could possibly be some sort of like body dysmorphia, because the first house kind of represents your body and your physical appearance, and Neptune there is maybe clouding how she sees that. But it also just makes things like beauty and makeup important to her identity, which I think we know that to be true. Her sun in Leo is in the 8th house. This is also another sort of business indicator house for me. The 8th house is like joint ventures and joint contracts. It's also about death and rebirth, intimacy, merging. And she has Juno there as well. So she's looking for a long-term partner who has equal stardom to her, who shines, as brightly in their Leo ways as she does. Leonian ways? Leonine? I don't know. So that's also interesting. And then she has her moon in Scorpio, which the moon does not necessarily love to be in Scorpio. It's very deep and brooding and, maybe emotionally protective, or just kind of secretive. And that is in the 11th house of her hopes and dreams, her friend groups, her aspirations. So I do wonder if for her, networking and having to be so emotionally vulnerable can be kind of uncomfortable for her at times, or maybe she feels like she can't always trust friends in her life, or that she has sort of like a waxing and waning relationship with friendships or just like network. The 11th house is also like fame and publicity in that way. So she really has had a lot of sort of private experiences related to her emotions out in the public eye. Which again, I guess we're not really surprised about that. Other things to know is she's got this 10th house Libra with Chiron, Mars, and the MC. Mars, Chiron directly conjunct at 27 degrees feels combative to me, and it's particularly about relationships, because Libra is definitely about partnerships and balance and harmony. Libra is also about aesthetics, so it makes sense that that would be at the top of her sky. I do think there's some wounding around public appearance or keeping things peaceful and harmonious and being people pleasing. And I think this might also, this Chiron and this wounding and the agitation of this Mars might also play into the Neptune that we have going on here. There's a direct square between these planets to that Neptune. And, you know, that also to me feels like maybe some body dysmorphia. And if you see, it's directly opposite her IC, which is at 29 degrees. That's the darkest part of her chart, and it's in the 4th house of home and family. So the way that I would read this is like, you know, a lot of this dysmorphia or this conflict or these beauty standards and things like that are a direct reflection of what's going on in her family life or how she was raised. 29 degrees of Aries feels very brave to me, and like she might be someone who could be sort of pioneering or break off and do her own thing. But it really just depends on how someone uses their chart. So that's Kylie in a nutshell. Oh, she also has Saturn in the 4th house, which I also have Saturn in the 4th house, and that is sort of like a difficult childhood or a maybe a very repressive childhood. It also can be one where you had to kind of mature, grow up kind of quickly. In Aries, I wonder if maybe she was sort of left alone or left to her own devices for a lot of her childhood. Who knows? She knows, not me. Let's pull up Timothee, because I think that's a good next place to go. Okay. Let's get it. So Timothee is Virgo rising, Capricorn sun, and Pisces moon. He has a huge stellium in Capricorn, and I know they're kind of bleeding into this Aquarius, but if you kind of just take it from here, it's because they're at the very final degrees. This is all pushed down into his 5th house. The 5th house is love, romance, playfulness, children, the inner child. It's also where we're creative, and that can also be in terms of like art and music and film and things like that, but also self-employment, because that's like a job that you create. So he has a ton of energy in the 5th house. He has his Sun, his Mars, his Juno, Mercury, Neptune, Uranus. We have another person with, you know, prominent Neptune on kind of personal points in the chart. So again, that's a little bit of illusion. A lot of actors and actresses have and models have very strong Neptune because of the ability to sort of like transcend or project into being someone else, or just having someone else project a different view upon you. And then his moon is conjunct Saturn in Pisces. Pisces moons are very dreamy, imaginative. They can be very empathetic. He has it in the 7th house of other people, so relationships are very important to him. With Saturn and the moon, these are both, you know, timekeeping planets. So it does feel like his relationships can be very serious, or he takes them very seriously, or that they are also, you know, keys to sort of like development or maturity, or like he tends to connect with people who can teach him something or give him wisdom or level him up in some way. And then this Saturn in Pisces with the moon is also the ruler of all of this stuff happening in the fifth. So there's a big connection between the fifth house and the seventh house. So relationships of all kinds will be important to him. Romantic relationships will be especially important, creative relationships as well, and business relationships. Other things to note is that he has, there are other things to say, but I think I'd rather go to looking at both of their charts together now. So that's kind of Timothee in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and pull Kylie back up. And how do I want to read this first? I think I'll do Kylie first. So this is the synastry of Kylie and Timothee, and I'm actually not mad at it. It's not the worst synastry I've ever seen. There's nothing about it that makes me feel like doom and gloom or like, you know, they're going to be terrible for each other or something like that. I do think these people like each other and are friends at the very least. His entire Capricorn stellium falls into her first house. So I do think he understands her perspective, her point of view, who she is, and probably is very empowering to her. His sun is there, so that's like shining a light directly on her first house. Mars is there, motivating her, stimulating her. Juno is there. That is the ideal partner or sort of just like an equal partnership. So that's right in her first house as well. Mercury, which is the mind and communication, is there. They both have that Neptune there. So they have a similar connection to illusory themes. And then he also has his Uranus there, sitting right on her Neptune, which is just kind of like bringing a shock to the system or sort of progressing her in some way. So the way that I would read that is that he definitely is triggering something in her chart. He's activating her in a major way. His Venus also falls into her second house and sits on her Uranus and Jupiter. So I think he definitely is going to bring some positive benefits to Kylie. I will say I think their synastry mostly benefits Kylie. Though Timothee does get some benefits, and we'll kind of get to that. But the Venus there is about money to some extent. The second house is also about money, but I also think he values her and might be able to give her sort of like a boost of self-confidence. And I do genuinely think that they are friends and kind of like connect and relate. Aquarius often has to do with like friendships. Venus, again, is like a connecting planet that's about relationships. Uranus is fun and exciting. Jupiter is bringing blessings and expansion as well. So I think that combination together is pretty fun. Uranus is not always the most reliable planet. So that's a piece of this that makes me feel like maybe it's going to be short-lived or just sort of like a flash in the pan, or, you know, something that just sort of like shakes things up, but then doesn't really sustain. But again, I don't know anything. I'm just reading some glyphs on a chart. His Saturn moon is sandwiching her south node in the third house. So this to me feels like it is changing, or it's helping nurture something that she needs to release in this lifetime concerning her mentality, the way that she's communicating, the connections that she has on a small scale. The third house is also siblings. And when I see Kylie's south node in the third house, I think that there is something that she needs to release with her siblings, because they're sucking a lot of energy from her and there's no boundaries. Pisces is notorious for being sort of boundaryless and just connecting with everything that's around, and sort of soaking up a lot of excess energy that's not necessarily its own. And the south node is also a point in the sky that is very much like a vacuum. So I do think that with his Saturn there, he might be able to sort of bring some maturity or some guidance to that release for her. And I also think with the moon there, he is at least emotionally understanding of what's going on. Though I do wonder if for him, there's also some sort of like, he can never emotionally fulfill the South Node. But again, it really depends on how they use that energy. And then the third house is also kind of like media and news on a smaller scale. So again, I wonder if he's, changing or leveling up the impressions that she has within the medium, which, national media to us would be more ninth house and like, a bigger deal. But I feel like this is a part of their everyday life. So it might fall a little bit more in that third house space. He also has his South Node conjunct her Saturn. So they have this duality of that as well. But this time it's happening in the fourth house. And it does sort of echo exactly what I was saying before. The third house is about siblings, but the fourth house is about home and family just in general. And there is something that he is releasing for her that has been restricted within her family before. So I do think he's probably bringing a lot of confidence and sort of like speaking life into Kylie, which to be honest, I don't like the Kardashians at all. But if there's anyone who deserves like a break, I think Kylie's probably gotten it the worst out of all of them. So, because she just didn't have any agency. Like she was a child and didn't get to choose any of these things and kind of got swept up in it all. So that's what I think about that. What else is going on? That then, of course, puts his North Node in her 10th house of public identity, which again, I think he's healing something for her within the public eye. He's bringing her new opportunities with that North Node there. And then they both have Pluto here in the 12th house, which I think, again, just speaks to sort of like a transformation of her inner private psyche. So let's flip it now and see how Kylie kind of impacts Timothee. Well, her sun and Juno fall in his 12th house. And that's, again, sort of like privacy, secrecy, rest and retreat. I definitely think there is a secret partnership going on. And I know we didn't get revealed this for a while. So that might be a part of that energy, is just like them keeping it secret for as long as they did, but then making it public with the Leo. But I feel like it's something more than that. It's square to his moon in the third. No, that's her moon. Yeah, I'll get to that later. So she's definitely in his 12th house space, and he may not really see her clearly or fully know what her motives are. There might be some element of this that's kind of behind him or that he's unaware of. But it also kind of just, to me, feels like a secret agreement, or because, this is an equal partnership. The sun's there. It's like life-giving. So I'm curious to see how that might manifest. She has her Mercury and North Node and Venus in his first house, again, bringing sort of attention and understanding and a good time to who he is as an individual and how he sees the world. The North Node, again, is this point of like destiny or fate or activation or like the direction you're supposed to be heading in this lifetime. So for someone to have their North Node in your first house can be kind of empowering. We also have Chiron, Mars, and her MC in his second house of finances. So Mars is an activator. So it's activating his financial house. And I don't know if that is like because of their connection together, maybe they'll be able to make more money, or he'll be able to make more money. Or if that means like she paid him or someone in her camp paid him. They both have Chiron there. So there is some sort of like wounding or something about it that's not 100% peachy. But there's some potential for benefits if they use that energy in the correct way, or if they work with what Chiron is trying to teach them within partnerships there. Her moon falls in his third house, again, of that media space with siblings. It's in the sign of Scorpio, so it's, again, a little bit secretive, a little dark, a little protective. I don't really know if we're going to get all of the information. I think Timothee has siblings as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if this Scorpio moon is also contributing to some sort of weirdness with his siblings. But I also just think this is like her, yeah, I don't know. That also, again, moves us right into his fourth. She had a similar pattern of where like the third and the fourth were connected. Pluto and Jupiter are here in his natal chart. Her Pluto sits right on top of it. It's disrupting his home and family and private life to some extent. And it's directly opposite the MC. So there's, he's sacrificing something publicly for something private, or something privately for something publicly. There's some sort of dance happening there. Her ascendant and Neptune fall in his fifth house on all of his planets. Again, the fifth house is fun and playfulness and the inner child and children and love and romance and businesses and creativity. So I do think she understands him. I think they probably have fun together and get along. But I do have to wonder if this is more about, I mean, it's probably everything. It's probably a romantic piece and a business piece. The energy can be more than one thing. And it's kind of hard at this point to read. We have also his sixth house for his Venuses, and her Uranus and Jupiter there. The sixth house is daily work and routines and habits and health. His Venus is there in Aquarius, which again is kind of like progressive, about friendships, about sort of like having a unique work environment or a unique daily life. With Uranus there, she's definitely shaking up his workspace and his daily life. With Jupiter there, she's bringing some expansion as well. Her South Node in Pisces sits right on his Saturn in the seventh house of one-on-one relationships. I feel like there is a debt owed here, and I don't know if it's like a past life debt or some sort of karmic something, but I'm feeling a weird energy around it in his seventh house. And the seventh house represents relationships, but it's also like contracts and business contracts. And again, the South Node is just this place that like sucks a lot of energy. So I just wonder if he, is in some sort of agreement with her, but then it feels like that agreement can never get fulfilled, or like it's, the terms always keep changing, or she always needs more, or something like that. But it could also just be that she is kind of sucking away, or, removing some of the old, experiences that he had around relationships and one-on-one partnerships and how to do business and things like that. Again, same thing with her Saturn on his South Node in the eighth house. The eighth house, again, is that like joint ventures, institutional money, like loans, debts, inheritances, things like that. So there's a lot of second and eighth house energy, which is like finances, which is not the most romantic. Like, I'm not really seeing super romantic, like lovey-dovey placements, though it's not bad. Like, I think these people do like each other and get along, but I'm just not seeing, complete bliss, if that makes sense. So now let me take it to the composite and get an idea of what their chart together, both of their separate energies, looks like together in one chart. And if you know anything about the quadrants, just looking at this can tell you a lot. We divide the houses into 4 quadrants. This side of the chart is more personal. This side of the chart is more about other people. This side of the chart is public. This side of the chart is private. And there's some other breakdowns, but that's kind of like, the gist of it. There's not a lot going on in this side of the chart, which is about sort of like connectivity and relationships and interpersonal connections. You can see most of these houses are empty, and then what's in the houses that are filled are not exactly like the best, per se, depending on what kind of relationship we're talking about. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the personal side of things. We have a Scorpio rising in this chart, a Libra sun, and a Capricorn moon. So these are the midpoints of their two charts laid on top of each other. So if he had a Pisces moon and she had a Scorpio moon, the midpoint is going to be this Capricorn moon. The first thing that I notice again is that sun, in Libra in the 12th house, and it's conjunct Chiron, which again is the wounded healer, and the North Node, which is like destiny or where they're supposed to be heading. And the 12th house is about rest, retreat, isolation, privacy, secrets, the self-sabotage, self-undoing, mental health, things like that. When I see this in the sign of Libra, which again is about partnerships, it just makes me feel like there's something secretive. And with Chiron there's some sort of like pain, which again, this combination could be healing, but the sun is in its fall in Libra, so it's not exactly its strongest place. And then in the 12th house, it's not really the best place for the sun either. So I wonder if their partnership is to distract or cover, or it's some sort of agreement for a deeper trigger or wounding or pain that they're trying to hide, or just keep private, not necessarily hide, but just like something that they want to keep private. Like maybe it's like, we have this agreement, we're going to be in this relationship so other people will get off of our backs and we can maybe have the freedom to do other things. Or maybe it's like, we want to distract people with this. I don't know, but there feels like something that's being hidden, and it feels like a secret agreement of some sort. We also have Juno, the ascendant, Mercury, and Venus in the first house of Scorpio. Juno again is that partnership or that equal agreement. The ascendant is the point of view, so they're coming from a Scorpionic point of view. Scorpio is about power. It's about resources. It makes me wonder, like, do we want to be a power couple? Do we want to, join forces to have a bigger impact? Mercury is there too, which makes me just think is real strategic. And Venus at the 29th degree in Scorpio, which is not its favorite sign to be in, also makes me feel like there's some sort of, honestly, the first thing that kind of popped into my head was like feminine sexuality. I wonder with it in the first house, if this is like an attempt to really make Kylie a bigger sex symbol, or like, sort of reinvent her, give her some sort of regeneration with her feminine appearance, or just like how other people view her. And again, in Scorpio, if you know any Scorpios, like they only tell you what they want you to know. So when I see that in the first house in this context, I'm just like, okay, we don't know. We're not going to know. We're not going to know all the facts about what's going on here. But her energy feels loud to me, especially because her moon is in Scorpio, and that's not the first house here. The moon is about femininity. Venus is kind of about femininity as well. So she feels very loudly in the first house to me. If we look at the second house of money again, we have Pluto conjunct Mars in a sign about expansion. you cannot convince me that money was not exchanged or has something to do with their union, like whether they're just like both really motivated to make money, or whether, I don't know, something's going on there that also just kind of feels a little transactional to me. The third house has the Capricorn moon, which again, this is a planet in fall or detriment. The moon is not really happy in Capricorn. It is more business minded. It's more making decision off of gain and ambition. And Jupiter is there, blessings and expansion, wanting to sort of make this bigger. Neptune is there, and that's the illusion. The third house again is their daily, community, which would be LA and the Hollywood scene, or, whatever. And the media to some extent. So I feel like this is a very strategic business connection to sort of establish something within their daily routines and lives and like their social circles, but also influencing the media in some way. The Neptune is just so illusory. And it's sandwiching, again, all of this energy. We also have the Uranus and Icy in the fourth house of Aquarius. And I'm telling you, I think they both might want to sort of break free from their families in some way, or they might feel like the black sheep of their family and they really feel understood by one another in that way. But Uranus is all about a revolt or a revolution, or just being sort of progressive. The only other placement is this Saturn and South Node in the sixth house of Aries. Again, work. This is about work. It's about daily routines. This is about habit. This is about working. Saturn is there trying to sort of bring some, discipline or structure into it. The South Node is just sucking it away. In the sign of Aries, I wonder if they need to sort of, that's interesting. The ruler of Aries is Mars, and Mars is in the second house of money. Yeah, this is work and finances. This whole relationship just screams work and money, and maybe like cover up. The 10th house is in Leo. That's like the star, the celebrity, the entertainer. So it makes sense that would be on the 10th house cusp. The 7th house of one-on-one partnerships is in Taurus, which is another sign that's kind of concerned about resources and the finer things and status and, the value of things. And the ruler of that is Venus, which is in Scorpio at that 29th degree again. So there's just this conversation. And then we go to Mars, which is the ruler of Scorpio, and that takes us right back to the second house and money. So everything in this chart kind of goes back to, very similar themes. So that's kind of my quick chart analysis. So I think they like each other just fine. Do I think this is a long-term romantic relationship? No. Do I think they both have something to gain from this? Yes. It feels strategic. It feels like business. It feels like they're friends kind of helping each other out because they both have something that they want to keep private. The Kardashians are known for putting out distractions at very strategic times. And I know that they are trying to get interest in their Hulu show, which has been not very well received for the past few seasons. So I wonder if this is to sort of drum up some heat for that. I don't really see the benefit to Timothee unless he's really just trying to collect a big check, do a friend a favor, and kind of assert some boundaries or piss off his family. I don't know. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was fun to do. And again, all of this is alleged and for entertainment purposes. I know nothing, so take this with a grain of salt.